A deaf dog. A raging fire. Lives hanging by a thread. But wait, this is no ordinary rescue story. Get ready for a twist that will leave you breathless. Before we dive into this incredible tale, please subscribe to our channel. Your support means everything to us and helps share the stories of these brave animals, who often remain silent heroes. So hit that subscribe button now. The air was thick with smoke, the acrid smell of burning wood stinging at the nostrils. Sirens wailed in the distance, but one hero couldn't hear them. Max, the deaf golden retriever, stood at the entrance of the apartment complex, his fur bristling with urgency. He sensed the vibrations of chaos, the frantic footsteps of people fleeing, the heat radiating from the flames consuming the floors above. His instincts kicked in. The world around him blurred into a haze, but his nose was finely tuned. He bolted down the stairs, guided by the subtle thrum of danger beneath his paws. Each step echoed in his heart, a call to action. The firefighters arrived, their faces grim, but Max didn't wait for orders. He lunged toward the billowing smoke, determined to lead them to the trapped family. Inside, the flames danced wildly, casting eerie shadows along the walls. The firefighters shouted to each other, their voices drowned by the roar of the fire. But Max was their silent guide. He moved swiftly through the smoke-filled hallways, his instincts sharper than any alarm bell. He could feel the heat, smell the fear, and with every ounce of his being, he pushed forward, knowing that lives depended on him. As the firefighters followed, their hearts raced with uncertainty. Time was slipping away. Would they reach the family in time? But Max was undeterred. He was on a mission, leading them closer to the source of the frantic cries for help. The stakes had never been higher. Would this deaf dog become the savior of the day? The answer hung in the air, thick with tension and hope. As Max darted through the smoke-filled corridors, the firefighters struggled to keep pace. The heat intensified, wrapping around them like a suffocating blanket. Each heartbeat echoed in their ears, a reminder that time was not on their side. The frantic cries from the trapped family grew louder, a haunting melody that drove Max further into the inferno. "Where is that noise coming from?" one firefighter shouted, his voice barely cutting through the chaos. "It's coming from the third floor," another responded, his eyes wide with urgency. "We need to move." Max paused briefly, ensuring the firefighters were following closely. He could sense their fear, their determination. For a moment, he caught a glimpse of a little girl's teddy bear, singed and forgotten in the heat. It tugged at his heart. But he didn't have time to linger. There were lives at stake, and he refused to let them down. As they approached the staircase leading to the third floor, the firefighters exchanged glances, their faces painted with doubt. "Are we sure we can make it up there?" one asked, wiping sweat from his brow. "We have to try," the team leader urged, steeling himself. "That family is counting on us." Max, sensing their hesitation, surged ahead. His instincts guided him, leading him to the door where the cries seemed to be the loudest. He pawed at the door, his heart racing with urgency. The firefighters rushed to his side, their hands fumbling for the doorknob. "On 3, the leader instructed, steeling himself. 1, 2. Before they could finish, the door gave way, and thick smoke billowed out like a living creature. Max dove through the opening, his keen nose guiding him deeper into the darkness. Inside, the scene was chaotic. The flames flickered ominously, casting shadows that danced along the walls. The family, a mother, father, and 2 children, were huddled together in a corner, their faces streaked with soot and terror. "Help us!" the mother cried, her voice trembling. "We can't find the way out." Max's heart sank, but he didn't lose his resolve. He bounded to the family, nuzzling the children gently, trying to convey a sense of safety. They didn't know he couldn't hear their pleas, but he understood their fear. The children gasped, their wide eyes reflecting the flames that surrounded them. "Look, the dog!" the father shouted, his voice cracking. "Maybe he can lead us out." "Follow him," the mother urged, her voice a mix of panic and hope. Max turned, glancing back to ensure the family was behind him. It was time to act. He dashed toward the door, his tail wagging wildly, a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. The family hesitated for a moment, but as the flames roared closer, they followed, clutching each other tightly. "Stay close!" the firefighter shouted, his heart racing as he guided them through the smoky haze. "We're right behind you." Max led them down the hallway, his instincts sharper than ever. He could feel the heat emanating from the walls, the urgency of the situation fueling his every move. The family stumbled behind him, their breaths coming in ragged gasps as they navigated the treacherous terrain. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the air, causing everyone to freeze. A beam overhead splintered, threatening to collapse at any moment. "Move!" the firefighter barked, urgency lacing his tone. Max felt the vibrations beneath his paws, a clear signal that they needed to hurry. He turned towards the family, barking insistently, urging them forward. "This way," he seemed to say, and they followed, fear driving them onward. As they reached the staircase, the flames roared behind them, hungry and relentless. The firefighters were close behind, their hearts pounding with adrenaline. "Keep going! Don't look back!" one shouted, his voice filled with determination. Finally, they reached the exit. The cool night air, a stark contrast to the suffocating heat they had just escaped. Max burst through the door, followed closely by the family and firefighters, collapsing to the ground in a mixture of exhaustion and relief. The family fell to their knees, overwhelmed by the emotions flooding through them. Tears streamed down the mother's face as she hugged her children tightly. "Thank you, thank you," she cried, her voice choked with gratitude. Max, panting heavily, looked up at the family, his heart swelling with pride. He had done it. He had led them to safety. As the firefighters gathered around, their expressions shifting from fear to admiration, they couldn't help but marvel at the incredible bond between man's best friend and these grateful survivors. If this story is touching your heart, make sure to comment from where you are hearing this amazing story. Max, the deaf dog who couldn't hear the flames, had become a hero in a world that often overlooked those who were different. In that moment, it was clear. Bravery knows no bounds, and sometimes the most extraordinary heroes are the ones who simply follow their instincts. As the family stumbled out of the building, gasping for fresh air, the overwhelming relief washed over them like a cool breeze after a scorching day. Max, the deaf dog, lay panting on the ground, his golden fur glistening with sweat. The firefighters surrounded the family, checking for injuries, offering comfort, and celebrating their escape from the jaws of danger. But as the dust settled, something unexpected began to unfold. From the shadows of the apartment complex, a figure emerged. An elderly woman, her face etched with lines of worry. She approached the family, her eyes wide with disbelief and concern. "I saw the fire," she said, her voice trembling. "I thought I had lost you all." The mother, still shaking from the adrenaline, looked up, her heart swelling with gratitude. "We're safe because of Max," she exclaimed, gesturing toward the dog who had saved them. But the elderly woman's expression shifted, a flicker of something darker crossing her face. "Max?" she echoed, her tone sharp. "That mutt? He's just a dog. What do you expect him to do?" The family exchanged glances, confusion mingling with disbelief. "He's not just any dog," the father said, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "He led us through the flames. He saved our lives." But the woman shook her head, dismissing their words as if they were mere nonsense. "Deaf or not, he's still just an animal. You should be thanking those brave firefighters, not a dog." Max perked up at her tone, his instinctive empathy sensing the tension. He stood, stepping closer to the family, as if to shield them from the woman's harsh words. In that moment, he became more than just a pet. He was their protector, their hero. But the elderly woman's voice grew louder, cutting through the surrounding chatter as she continued her tirade, her assumptions surfacing like the flames they had just escaped. People think they can rely on these animals, but they don't understand. They're not capable of real heroism. It's just instinct. The firefighters looked at one another, their expressions a mix of shock and indignation. "Ma'am, with all due respect, you don't know what you're talking about," one firefighter said, stepping forward. "This dog didn't just act on instinct. He led us straight to that family. He saved them." The woman scoffed, crossing her arms. "And what? He's still just a dog. You think he's special because he can't hear? That's not a hero. That's a disability." Max's heart sank at her words, a wave of sadness washing over him. But even in that moment, he refused to let despair take hold. He turned to the family, his eyes pleading, as if to say, "Don't let her words hurt you. Remember what I did." The mother, sensing Max's turmoil, stepped forward, her voice steady and filled with conviction. "You're wrong. Max is our hero. Just because he's different doesn't mean he's less capable. He showed us bravery when we needed it most." The elderly woman's brow furrowed, and for the first time, she hesitated. The air grew thick with tension as the family stood united, their bond strengthened by the adversity they had just faced. "Maybe you should take a moment to consider what true heroism really means," the father added, his voice firm. "It's not about being perfect. It's about rising to the occasion, despite the odds." A silence settled over the scene, the chaos of the fire now a distant memory. The firefighters exchanged glances, their respect for Max deepening with every passing second. They had come to appreciate the depth of his courage and the love he brought to the family. Finally, the elderly woman sighed, her shoulders slumping, as if the weight of her words had become too heavy to bear. I didn't mean to offend. I just thought—" "You thought wrong," interrupted a firefighter, his voice gentle yet firm. Max showed us that even those who can't hear the alarms can still respond to the call of duty. He is not just a dog. He is a hero. The elderly woman's eyes softened as she looked at Max, who stood proudly, his tail wagging ever so slightly. Perhaps she hadn't given him the credit he deserved. Perhaps she hadn't realized the depth of connection between humans and their animal companions. As the family gathered around Max, their gratitude palpable, the elderly woman took a step back, her heart slowly warming to the realization that heroism comes in many forms. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice now filled with sincerity. "You're right. I didn't see it before." Max, sensing the change in atmosphere, trotted over to her, nudging her hand with his nose. It was as if he understood her apology and was ready to extend his own forgiveness. The woman hesitated, but then gently reached down to scratch behind Max's ears, a smile breaking through her earlier bravado. And in that moment, a shift occurred, not just within her, but amongst everyone present. They had witnessed something profound, a lesson that transcended the fire and chaos of the day. Max, the deaf dog, had not only saved a family, he had sparked a conversation about compassion, understanding, and the true nature of bravery. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the scene, the family, firefighters, and even the elderly woman stood together, united by their shared experience. They watched as Max wagged his tail, the embodiment of resilience and love, proving that heroes come in all shapes, sizes, and, even without sound, capacities to make a difference. In the aftermath of the blaze, amid the whispers of gratitude and newfound respect, Max had not only rescued a family, he had opened hearts and minds, forever changing the narrative of what it means to be a hero. As the family knelt on the cool grass, their hearts still racing from the chaos of the fire, a palpable shift filled the air. The firefighters, now their guardians, moved in and out, tending to the aftermath of the blaze while keeping a watchful eye on the survivors. Yet, amidst the relief, one presence stood out: Max, the deaf dog, who had just pulled them from the brink of disaster. Tears of gratitude streamed down the mother's face as she cradled her children close. "You were so brave, Max," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. The golden retriever, still panting heavily, seemed to understand the weight of her words. He looked up at her with soulful eyes, a silent promise that he would always protect them. But just as peace began to settle over the scene, the elderly woman, still lingering at the edge, stepped forward again, her expression a mixture of regret and curiosity. "I'm sorry for what I said earlier," she began, her voice softer this time. "I didn't understand the bond you have with him." The family turned to her, their expressions softening. "It's okay," the mother replied, her voice steady. "Sometimes it takes a moment to see the truth." "Max is not just a dog," the father added, his tone filled with conviction. "He's a member of our family. He showed us that even in the darkest moments, love and bravery can shine through." Max trotted over to the woman, his tail wagging tentatively. The elderly woman knelt down, her heart thawing as she reached out to stroke his golden fur. "You really did save them, didn't you?" she murmured, her voice laced with newfound respect. Max leaned into her touch, sensing her sincerity. In that moment, an unspoken understanding blossomed between them, a recognition of the courage it takes to be different, to rise above expectations, and to act when it matters most. As the night deepened, the family gathered around Max, sharing their story with the firefighters, recounting every detail of the harrowing escape. Laughter mingled with tears as they reminisced about the teddy bear, the children's fearful cries, and Max's unwavering determination. The firefighters listened intently, nodding with pride. One firefighter stepped forward, his eyes shining with admiration. "Max showed us all what true bravery is," he declared, raising his voice so everyone could hear. "He may be deaf, but he heard the call for help in a way we could never have imagined. He's an inspiration." If this story is touching your heart, make sure to subscribe for more incredible stories like this one. The crowd began to gather, drawn by the commotion. Neighbors, once oblivious to the fire, now stood in awe of the heroic tale unfolding before them. Word spread quickly, and soon the small gathering transformed into a celebration of resilience and community. The elderly woman, now fully embracing the warmth of the situation, addressed the crowd.
"We often underestimate the power of those we consider different," she said. "Today, we've witnessed a miracle. Max has taught us that our perceptions can be flawed, that true heroes come in all forms." The family smiled, their hearts swelling with pride. Max, now the center of attention, basked in the love and admiration pouring from everyone around him. He soaked in the gentle pats and kind words, relishing in the joy of having made.
As the night wore on, the firefighters shared stories of their own experiences, emphasizing the bond between animals and humans. They spoke of therapy dogs who comforted victims, search and rescue dogs who located missing persons, and now Max, who had become a legend in his own right. The family realized that, thanks to Max, they had not only escaped the fire, but they had also sparked a movement. The community began discussing ways to support local animal shelters, ensuring that no animal would feel the weight of neglect or misunderstanding again. They planned fundraising events, awareness campaigns, and educational programs to teach others about the incredible capabilities of animals, regardless of their differences. As the sun began to rise, casting a golden hue over the gathering, the family held Max close, whispering words of love and gratitude. They knew this was just the beginning of something greater, a legacy they would carry with them for years to come. Max, the deaf dog, had become a symbol of hope, an emblem for those who dared to be different, and a reminder that true heroism isn't just about grand gestures. It's about the quiet strength that lies within us all, waiting for the moment to shine. And so, as dawn broke over the horizon, the community stood united, forever changed by the heroics of one remarkable dog. They celebrated not just the rescue but the lessons learned about love, acceptance, and the incredible bond between humans and their beloved animals. Max had not only saved a family, he had ignited a spark of compassion that would burn brightly in their hearts for years to come. In the end, it was clear. Heroes come in all shapes and sizes, and sometimes the most profound impact comes from those who cannot speak, but whose hearts roar louder than any flames.